Hi, I'm Gareth Green and welcome to this video, Cool Extended Chord Progressions, episode 5, which means of course that we've got 4 previous episodes you might want to have a look at as well. And in fact, we've got a few more because it's one of a short series of 8 videos in which we're just looking at the idea of extended chords and how we might be able to use them to extend our vocabulary of chords, whether we're writing music or improvising it, playing it, whatever we want to do with it. And it's just trying to give you a little bit of confidence, if you need it, with writing these extended chords. So previously we've been thinking quite a bit about 7th chords. In this video, I'm going to use a 7th chord. I'm going to use 2 9th chords, and I'm also going to use a 13th chord because of course there's no problem about mixing and matching extended chords and extending as far as you want to go. So let's see what we've got here. We're starting off with a C9 chord. So, well, we know that C is C, E, G. Well, C7 would be a B flat on top of that, and a 9th would be a D. If you wanted to make it a C major 9, well, then you could have a B natural in there. So I've given you that possibility if you wanted to. But there's your C9. Your F major 7, of course, is an F major chord, F, A, C, and then let's have that major 7th, that E natural there on the top. And the G13, which is G, B, D, F is the 7th, A is the 9th, C is the 11th, E is the 13th. And as I said earlier in the course, you can use all of those notes if you want it, but it's an awful lot to have 7 notes in a chord. Or you can thin it out. Maybe losing the 5th is quite a good thing to do because that D is sort of in between C and E and B is just underneath it, A, G. You get this kind of pile up of notes, don't you? So you might want to just kill that one a bit. And then one thing you can do is just to thin it to a root, a 3rd, a 7th and a 13th. And if you want to add something else in there, well, that's up to you. You can as well. Play around with it and see. G13, we're kind of using a fair bit in this little course. If you're in the key of C, of course, that's the dominant chord. So a kind of using your dominant chord fully extended is something that often happens before you go back to a tonic chord. So a G13 followed by a C chord. And the C chord may be extended. So you might have a 7th in there or something. In this case, we've got a G13 going to C9. Okay. And then, of course, this whole thing about, well, you can deal with accidentals. You can take an extended chord and think, what happens if I flatten this note or sharpen that note, just to get even more colour out of it. Okay, well, let's just look at the notes that I've written in black for a moment, and you'll soon see that I should have put a flat sign in upstairs in the first chord. Let's just put that in now. Apologies for that. And that just makes sure we've got B flats in both hands, which is sensible. There's the C9. Here's the F7. Here's the G13. And here's the C9 again with a different voicing. Okay, so this notion here that you might start on one chord, put 2 chords in between, and come back to the first chord. And if you look at this progression, it's basically an elaboration of a very simple, often used progression. It's going 1, 4, 5, 1. So if you're a kind of Roman numerals person, you'll think, oh yeah, 1, 4, 5, 1. We do that all the time, don't we? So 1, 4, 5, 1. But isn't it interesting how when you extend the chords, you can take a bog standard progression and make it sound much more interesting. But it's still going 1, 4, 5, 1. So this is how extended chords can enrich a perfectly basic progression. So if you're someone who's sort of happy using basic diatonic chords and you're thinking, yeah, I do things like 1, 4, 5, 1 all the time. Well, what would happen if you were to use your 1, 4, 5, 1 and extend the chords? Well, you're going to get something like this, which is going to make a very different kind of sound. Okay, as I say, you can have those B flats in the first chord, or you can make it a C major chord. The second one, I've got the F major 7, but you could add in a G if you wanted to use a bit more there. Be rather nice. The G13, I've thinned it out, but if you wanted to add in like an A, it's quite nice to add in that ninth, isn't it? So you can really, with a 13th, particularly a dominant 13th chord, a root, a third, a 7th, the 13th. But if you want to add the 9th for a 5th part, it's a really cool thing to do. And then I've come back to my C9 with different voicing, different spacing of those notes. Okay, then of course you can do the things we've been talking about in the earlier videos, where you use this as a chord plan to think, how can I elaborate a melody around this? Maybe just going to different notes of the chord, so harmony notes or chord tones. Maybe just using neighboring notes, so you get some passing notes or passing tones, or you use auxiliary notes or neighbor tones, like something like this. And you see how you kind of get a little bit of a melody out of that. Or you get a bit of movement in the bass. And do something at the bottom. Bit of both might be quite nice. The idea that we've talked about in earlier videos of just arpeggiating things. Kind of makes it sound gorgeous, doesn't it? And when you think all we're doing is that basic 1-4-5-1 progression, and we turn it into something that's really cool, much more colourful. So this is really intended as a video saying, well, one thing you can do with these extended chords is to take standard chord progressions that, 2-5-1, 4-5-1, these kind of things. And then you can just think, if I extend these chords in different ways, what options does that give me? What colour does it give me to do something that's utterly transformative over just doing the basic progressions? And then kind of jam around with it. If you're a keyboard player or a guitarist, that's great. But even if you're something else, doesn't matter. If you're playing a melodic instrument, you could just get these chords down on some kind of track or something and jam along to them. Could you use these as the basis for a more extended improvisation or composition? Could you be brave enough to say, well, if this works with this progression, what other progressions do I normally use? And what happens when I extend the chords there? Can I get something interesting out of that? What happens if I flatten my ninth or not flatten my ninth? These kind of things all add colour to what you're doing. So there we are, how to use kind of fairly standard progressions and transform them into something much more colourful. Well, if you've enjoyed this video, let me point you to the Music Matters website, www.mmcourses.co.uk. We've got lots of courses on there, so lots of things you might want to scroll through there. Quite a lot of people have been telling us in recent times that they're quite good at improvising ideas, composing ideas, but actually struggle when it comes to developing those ideas. How do you take those ideas and develop them in some way? How do you get those ideas to evolve? How do you get those ideas to turn into a piece that's got a bigger structure? Well, let me point you to our course on writing in sonata form. Now, you may think, I'm no interest in writing in sonata form. That's fine. Nevertheless, even if you're not interested in writing in sonata form, one thing a sonata form structure has is a section called a development section. And in this course, I'm showing you lots of different ways of taking an idea and developing a number of possibilities from that. So sometimes we get one idea and we come up with 8 or 9 different ways of developing that idea. So you can then think, okay, I'll choose this one and that one, or I'll use this one here, or use that one there. And the sonata form structure gives you a framework for writing a more extended movement of a piece. So even if you don't want to write in sonata form, you'll learn how to do this bigger structure stuff. And if you're looking at bigger structures, well, actually sonata form is quite a good structure to work in. And it's been around for a very long time. So maybe something that you want to engage with, that course on writing in sonata form. But lots of other stuff on the website. Do have a look. www.mmcourses.co.uk